Hey, what's up? It's Akasan here. So Thor Ragnarok is out all over the world right now, shattering records. But is it the best Marvel movie we've ever seen, or is it just another flavor of the month? We'll find out in this review. Let's go. In prison on the other side of the universe, the mighty Thor finds himself in a deadly gladiatorial contest that pits him against the Hulk, his former ally and fellow Avenger. Thor's quest for survival leads him in a race against time to prevent the all-powerful Hela from destroying his home and the Asgardian civilization. Now, also notable that this is the first time directorial debut of a colored director. Colored? Why colored? Of a person of a minority, okay? It's just something I wanted to throw out there. Maybe because the movie is just very, very colorful. Now, wow. Now, I will admit, and I've said this many times, I was actually not excited to see Thor. When they started making all the changes and it went from its kind of dark and grittiness of Ragnarok to Ragnarok. I started losing track and I started losing interest just because I thought the idea of it being a buddy, romantic adventure type of like a comedy. The idea of a Thor movie being a comedy really turned me off. I'm one of those minorities that actually very much enjoyed Thor: The Dark World, and admittedly there were problems with that movie. There were problems with the villains. However, I still like that tone. I like that feel. I like that subtle Game of Thrones vibe that it had going for it. And I felt that this movie was in a very different direction. However, it did a very good job of holding on to some of those Asgardian elements that I enjoyed. A summary version, should you watch the movie? Absolutely. If you're an MCU fan, definitely check it out. If you're a Thor fan, definitely check it out. If you enjoy the old style Jack Kirby style Thor comics, check out this movie. If you're not really into humor, probably not the movie for you. If you just wanted to see a very moody Thor decapitating motherfuckers left and right, probably not the movie for you. It's a very soft Thor, this version. If you're looking for something that is very hardcore and sticks really close to the Thor Ragnarok comic story and the Planet Hulk comic storyline, this movie is probably not for you. You will get upset badly.
No, I didn't ride now.
The hammer rode you on your back?
No. I used to spin it really fast, and it would pull me off the...
Oh my God, the hammer pulled you off?
The ground. It would pull me off the ground up into the air, and I would fly. Every time I threw it would always come back to me.
Sounds like you had a pretty special and intimate relationship with this hammer, and that losing it was almost comparable to losing a loved one.
It's a nice way of putting it.
But let's get into some details and what I liked. Thor actually did stuff. See, one of the things I was really worried about is we were gonna jump right into the cutting of the hair and him being like this warrior on the battle planet of Scar. But Thor actually did stuff before the whole Planet Hulk storyline was included here. That's one of the things I was a little worried about when I was seeing all the hair being cut and just him losing kind of that Thor edge we're familiar with the whole Goldilocks type of situation. I thought we were gonna jump right into that, but that was not the case. I actually, I didn't really like the jokes that were being made immediately into the movie, but past that over, what I actually liked about it was seeing the fact that we basically got long-haired Thor, reminiscent of Thor 1 and Thor 2, seeing all these different elements from the previous movies, not including the Age of Ultron and anything else Thor has been in. You basically saw elements hinting to Thor 1 and Thor 2, especially the music. I love the fact that they were able to include lots of elements from Brian Taylor's soundtrack of Thor 1, Thor 2, and Avengers: The Age of Ultron. Little subtle hints of that really made me reminded me how much I've enjoyed the previous Thor movies and the Avengers movies, and just seeing it all connected like that really gave breath to the Asgard world. On top of that, Mjolnir was actually utilized a lot. I don't know if it's the fact that they knew Mjolnir was going to get destroyed and they just needed to utilize it as much as possible, because there goes your replica toy sales afterwards. But we actually got to see Thor doing stuff early on in the movie before he got imprisoned and all that. You actually got to see him utilizing Mjolnir, which was something that I think, safe to say most of us have been waiting for Thor to basically do something in his own movies. We finally got to see that in the opening act, and I thought that was a great utilization of Mjolnir, Thor's usage of being a warrior, just the fact that he can actually fight. I thought that worked really well in this instance. One of the biggest things that I actually enjoyed the most was the fact that Thor Ragnarok didn't really focus too much on Earth. Yes, they were actually on Earth for a short amount of time, encountering Doctor Strange, and Odin was chilling somewhere in Norway, right? But it wasn't the center focus, which is one of the things that really hurt Thor 2 and sometimes Thor 1, was just the fact that you were being weighed down by these mortal humans and their peasant problems. No, Thor wasn't dealing with that. Thor was dealing with gods, monsters, demons, and taking people out, immortality issues. This point I really like because the director did a great job of giving this very Jack Kirby feel when going to the planet Sakaar. Just having that colorful feeling worked so well, but then going back to Ragnarok, going back to Asgard, you just saw that kind of still that fantasy medieval element that I think it just worked really well on both planets when they went back and forth. Had Earth been included a lot more, I think we would have to have this grounded, realistic vibe that I think didn't work well with this particular movie. So for that, I really enjoyed the way the colorization was done on both Planet Sakaar and Asgard. Sakaar? Am I saying that right? I don't remember. It's been a while. Sakaar. And telling off that particular point, one of the bigger things I did enjoy was the fact that the MCU, the inclusion of the MCU wasn't so included as much as it was with Spider-Man Homecoming. As I mentioned in my previous review of Homecoming, it just basically felt like this was Peter Parker in Tony Stark's world. With Thor Ragnarok, no, you basically felt that you were in Thor. You were Thor. You were going through exactly what Thor was going through, and you're gonna have to deal with some stuff. Sometimes I felt the elements of Planet Hulk were not treated as fairly as it should, and I'll get to that in a little bit, but I did feel like they really focused well on a Thor movie and the main character being Thor. And originally, when I was watching this movie and thinking about my review, one of the things I was going to include for one of the things that I liked is the fact that the whole fiery, breathing, demon final third act battle just happened in the first act. They were just like, okay, we're going to get this out the way with the whole CGI monster deal. Let's get this fight out the way in the beginning. And I was really enjoying that because it made me start thinking about, what's next? What's going to happen in the third act? But unfortunately, unfortunately, the third act still ended with a fiery, breathing, doomsday, CG-like monster ending things. Yeah. But can't win them all, right? But what I will say was, it did keep me guessing. It did keep me guessing at least. Same could be said for the whole idea of the whole portal in the sky going to another universe, a shiny blue light demon anus thing we've seen so many times in so many other movies. It was kind of good that they kind of had it in the beginning, in the middle here, and it wasn't like the end of the whole situation with the movie. That point, I appreciate that in some sense. The demon's anus. Demon's anus. Another thing I actually really liked was Marvel's choice in editing their trailers. Everything was done very well. I had no idea that Thor was going to lose his eye the way he did. I didn't even think about it, because what happens, especially when you're working with Marvel videos, when you're working with trailers, when you're just working with videos a lot and you edit a lot, like myself on a daily basis, you remember this stuff a lot. You remember these scenes. That's one of the reasons I don't do reactions to TV spots and short clips, because I remember it. And when I'm in the movie, I'm actually like subconsciously remembering where little things go and where little scenes will happen. So I really appreciate the fact that Marvel actually went and edited out or edited in, whichever way you want to look at it, Thor with 2 eyes and the whole different god power. When Hela grabs the Mjolnir, completely different background. That was great. I hope they continue to do that sort of stuff, because I think it really helps throw off the audience a lot, and I can't wait to see, you know, it keeps me on my toes. It makes me start thinking like, wait a second, what's going on? What's really going to happen? So what really happens? Now, don't get me wrong. I liked this movie. I liked it a lot more than I thought I was going to like it. But I didn't love this movie, and there's particularly a reason why. I was very surprised when all the reviews started coming in and everybody was just saying that Thor Ragnarok, funny movie, funniest Marvel movie ever. Great time, lots of laughs, and I was just like, what? Like, why is a Thor movie the first impression you're going to get and the lasting impression going to be humor, going to be funny? Well, watching this movie, I completely understood. And while I think that there was a nice blend between Asgard and the whole Planet Hulk storyline, Scar, right? Scar. Let me look this shit up real quick. How do you pronounce Sakaar?
Hulk was cast from Earth only to crash land on the hostile planet known as Sakaar. There, the Hulk is forced to be a slave and Scar. God damn, it's hot in here. So there's my biggest concern here. I'm not a big fan of comedies, and I don't think that I would have never thought that Thor would have ever been a comedy. It works well, but sometimes the jokes just ran a bit dry. Sometimes there are a lot of jokes where there didn't need to be jokes. I heard that the original runtime of Thor was supposed to be about 100 minutes, but then they added about 30 minutes in, and the director said to add more jokes in because it tested really well at Comic-Con. I think for the general audience, I think that I guess it works. I guess that's really what people wanted. But my biggest concern here is one of the biggest things that Marvel movies get knocked for is the fact that there's jokes per second here. Like, everything is a joke and things are made light of, and there isn't really any sort of danger. My concern here is the fact that this particular movie, with the lasting memory of it being funny, it's like, oh, Thor, he's funny. I feel that that might do more damage to the brand than it would help the brand in the future. I feel that more Marvel movies, with the inclusion of Homecoming, now Thor Ragnarok being funny, that the future MCU movies are going to continue to have the same sort of format of just being comedy hour. And I feel that that's also a missed direction. That would be a missed situation. Not every person can be Deadpool. Not every movie should be treated like Deadpool. I think there's a time and place for every character, and one of my favorite movies from the MCU is Civil War. The reason being, it was fucking serious. It was dealing with some real consequences, and it was a psychological warfare between two different people with two different opposing sides, and there wasn't really a right or wrong, and that's something you can debate about to this day, who's right, who's wrong, Tony or Steve. But if we start going into this whole this list of every Marvel movie being a comedy,
that's not really the kind of universe I want to tune in for anymore. Because the fact of the matter is, while we all were very entertained with Thor Ragnarok while watching the movie, it doesn't really become the most memorable movie because it was a bunch of jokes, it's a bunch of humor. Yes, there were end results and end consequences, and we now have King Thor, right? But that's something that could probably be wrapped up in a bit of a digest, and it's not something that I personally would go back and watch over and over again. I felt that the director did a very good job of handling the Thor Ragnarok sort of storyline, Ragnarok coming to Asgard and the destruction of Asgard. I thought that it worked very well. However, in the next scene or so, a few minutes later, Thor's joking about the whole planet being taken over, and it seemed like it just kind of filtered out any of the kind of heaviness of it. A lot of the Warriors 3, Warriors 4, whatever the fuck they're called, right? They were just taken out like, like so simple without any remorse. I don't even know if those were the original characters because they were on screen for like 2 seconds. I'm very glad Lady Sif, the actress who plays Lady Sif, was not available to film that, because at least we might see some inclusion with her in the future. It just felt like there were a lot of scenes in Thor Ragnarok that could have been handled a lot better, or could have had more impact. That being Odin passing. Most of the people in the audience, including myself, didn't really catch the way the tone of the movie was going. We didn't really catch that Odin was actually dead. Like, we didn't really catch that he was actually passing, because it just didn't have time. We didn't really have the feeling just wasn't there enough, because everything was getting joked about all the time. And so I reiterate again, when you have all these sort of dark situations and dark storytelling and kind of really heavy things going on, it sort of kind of gets passed over because everything was joked over, and it becomes another midsummer's memory. Oh, actually, autumn now, but you get what I'm saying. Which leads me to my other point here, the Planet Hulk storyline. I completely understand that Universal is not interested in making money and doing a Planet Hulk storyline. We all thought that the Hulk was going to have that solo movie after the Age of Ultron, and when you saw Hulk flying off, we were just like, oh fuck yes, Universal, make it happen, right? Marvel, make it happen. But we did not get the Planet Hulk storyline. Instead, what we ended up getting was a mixture of Thor Ragnarok and the Planet Hulk storyline. But for me, as a comics fan, the Planet Hulk storyline is by far the best Hulk story I have ever read. It's really hard between, I consider World War Hulk to kind of be connected to Planet Hulk, so that doesn't count. There are some other ones, but Planet Hulk is just one of the best storylines. Even if you're not a Hulk fan, you can still appreciate how well it was written, and it has impacts that we still feel today in comics history now. It basically gets thrown, a lot of that storyline just gets thrown under the rug as sort of fodder just for Thor to go through. I was a little disappointed with Korg and Meek, and because they were so important to the Planet Hulk storyline, to see them just used as comedy relief was a little disheartened in my opinion. But I also understand that we were never going to get the full Planet Hulk storyline. Just the way it was thrown in, though, in this particular movie, it became the comedy side. Where Asgard, I think it was handled fairly well. Being on Planet Scar was just, it was comedy. It was basically all comedy. And I felt like it was a little sad to see that that's where the Planet Hulk storyline ended up. I just wish we could have had a little more seriousness to it, especially the fact that Bruce Banner had been the Hulk for 2 years straight and never reverted back. There's some psychological damage there. That's an issue that could be explored, but it was just kind of passed over with like, you're in a river, you see the sun's going down, the sun's going down. And I'm just like, okay, I'm getting a little tired of just everything being laughed off. Psychological damage! Alright, let's move on to the critical zone. Small little nitpicks. I wish Odin's death was addressed a little bit better. I wish there was just a more sincere, I don't know, just it was handled better. Like we had more time to feel it, so to speak, before Hela showed up and shit, I felt Cate Blanchett did a great job as Hela. I just felt like they didn't really give her enough time to really come out as evil. She ended up being a lot of times of like a video game character. Most of her fight scenes looked completely CG'd, and it just looked like, okay, it looks like we're watching a video game here. And I understand some scenes could have been, some scenes need to be handled that way, but I sometimes felt like you didn't have to do the entire fight scene like that. You could have cut in and out, and there's a lot of green screen choppiness going on in a lot of these scenes, especially with her in it, that I felt could have been handled if they just shot a little more of it with the actual actress and other things like that. But I know it might have been cheaper to do it all computer. I don't know. While I think most of the music being used during Ragnarok and in Asgard worked very, very well, the usage of Led Zeppelin's Immigrant Song toward the final act, while I thought was interesting, and I was bobbing my head like everybody else, I just felt like the actual imagery, the actual scene didn't work exactly the same way. With Thor and his god powers being unleashed, it didn't really seem like he was actually that strong, and I felt like it could have been done a little bit differently or a little bit better. But of course, that's up for me to decide a little bit later while watching it again when it gets released at home, see if I have a different opinion or take on it. Seeing it that one time, I just thought it could have been a little bit differently. I really actually liked the inclusion of the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory song while Thor just happened to just arrived and was getting shaved up and cut up on planet Scar. There you go, Sakaar. While I was showing up on Sakaar, that I thought was great. I just felt like going down the Rainbow Bridge there. I know the song has to do with Ragnarok. It just seemed like it was, it could have been cut a little bit differently. But that's a very, very slight nitpick. Hulk bleeding red instead of green was kind of interesting. But then again, I think he always bleeds green. Wait, and maybe in the movies he bleeds red. Huh. That's something else to look into. Okay. Alright guys, so there you have it. That's my review of Thor Ragnarok, or Battle Royale as they call it here in Japan. Again, very entertaining, very funny, but I do feel like it won't be that memorable. And I think this year, with comic book movies, maybe the general audience might like it a lot, but I also feel like it hurts the diversity of comic movies in the future. I think this one did a really good job. I'm mixed on it. I'm very mixed on it because I think Thor was very bold. It was very brave, Thor 3 here. But I worry that people are going to continue to want comedy movies from the MCU, so when they try to go back to doing something serious, maybe we'll get something serious in Black Panther. I hope they actually address a lot of these black and white issues in Black Panther, or that's a whole other topic. And when Infinity War comes out, when the Infinity War breaks through, I hope people aren't going to expect a comedy. I want to see some serious shit. I want to see some serious consequences. I want to come out feeling just wrecked the same way after Civil War, because to me that's still the best MCU movie out there that I can continue to watch because it's just so goddamn good. Even Age of Ultron had consequences and situations that I really enjoyed, and Ultron pushed the limit of the way you thought about certain things. This year for the MCU has just been a little more simplistic with the movies, and I think that's fine for this year. I think of all the movies, and I can't even believe I'm saying this, I think Justice League is the one that seems to be my most anticipated at this point. Anticipating that it doesn't completely suck, I guess. And I think I might actually enjoy that one the most this year. But I don't know, it's still Zack Snyder, so you never know. We can't get our hopes up too high. Though, I think next year will definitely belong to Marvel, in terms of my personal opinion with Infinity War. Okay? Hit that like button if you liked this review. Subscribe, please. I'm doing these reviews all the time. Reactions, vlogs, skits. We got a lot of stuff going on this channel, and I hope you enjoy, okay? Shoutouts to Patreon as well. And till Justice League, stay tuned for the next review. Alright, I'm out. Peace.